The project that we're talking about today, the Family Caregiving Project, is one that I started because after many years of first working in the system and then doing research on these issues, I could really see that there were a lot of issues that families dealt with that weren't really being talked about in terms of thinking about the whole family unit. And while we often focus on the individual who's diagnosed and what's going on with their illness, there's this whole other story that's really not told very well about what's happening in families and their own mental health in terms of their ability to deal with what's going on. And although this is focused specifically on mental illness, I really see it as speaking to the larger issue that increasingly people are being affected by long-term illnesses, both mental and physical illnesses, and chronic illness has an impact on the individual and the people that care about them. And I believe that we need to think in new ways about how we support families, the entire family, when somebody's affected by a long-term illness.
I definitely play both. I'm someone with a lived experience, and I certainly help my family. It's always been a joke in my family where it's hereditary. We're all in the same boat. Mm-hmm. After I was diagnosed, especially with my father, I had we were talking about, this is what I experienced with my mental illness, and this is another thing that I experienced with my mental illness, and something clicked for him. He never got help, and I think just by sitting there and listening to me really work through my life and acknowledge that this is who I am, accept it, this is a part of me, he got help. Mm-hmm. And in terms of the roles, they switched pretty quickly after that to a more bi-directional kind of way. Mm-hmm. And he's been doing very well. I'm constantly telling him how proud I am of him, which is funny because you would think that a daughter wouldn't say that to her father, right? But in terms of just the roles, but I always tell him, I'm so proud of you. Mm-hmm. I'm so proud of you. So.
Before coming here today, I've never really openly spoke about how I felt. I've always kind of put myself as broken. Mm. And then when speaking with some of the other people today, they said that they felt the same way, like that there's something broken, and that's kind of how society has looked at disabilities and mental health and anything like that is as a broken object. Mm. But being able to hear other people say it kind of makes me feel like, okay, I'm not the only person who's going through that, and we were able to talk openly about it and how we can kind of try to overcome the whole labeling of broken and realize that it's just part of us.
Fear plays a factor. Sometimes people are afraid of getting help because what happens if I get better? What happens to me then? What do I do? I think some people don't get help because they don't know what's out there, or they're afraid of the stigma. What will someone think of me if I'm getting mental health help? Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of different reasons why people don't get help, and it's been ingrained, I think, to a degree, and I think we're getting better at it as a society, but it's been ingrained that, if you have a mental health issue, then there's something wrong with you. And we need to get over that. Mm-hmm. We need to realize that, mental health is just as important as physical health.
I see mental health as any other health issue that needs to be dealt with. And so my argument is, if my child was diagnosed with cancer, would I seek help? So I want to encourage those families who may think mental health is a stigma and you're going to be looked down on, that it's better to go and get information that you can work with so you can better understand and you can better help your family member who's not well. And I want to say that having been in this for more than 20 years, I would say, I do not see enough Black families coming forward for that help. And I'd like to encourage them to know that it is safe to come to these groups. I have attended groups for many years. I was very much a part of a board of a family support group. And it will make a big difference because you will get some understanding of how to cope.
My family's experience from having children that were loved and accepted and they have a lot of positive feedback must have been spectacular to an extent, but when things happen and things go wrong and now you have a completely flip side of the story, I think my parents really struggled with that. I think they really struggled with me being who I was, and now they have to deal with who they are. But where we are today, I believe that we are a lot stronger. Our relationship is perfect. We have a great relationship because of what we've gone through together.
A theme we'll explore in this study is how mental illness becomes part of the new normal within families. After you feel like you have some understanding of what's going on, and admittedly that's never a complete thing, there's a way that a family has to adjust to the new normal of this is part of who our family is, this is part of what we have to think about when we're thinking about caring in our family, this is part of what we have to take into account now whenever we're doing things as a family. So another theme is how does this become the new normal?
I feel like it's been very interesting to try to make time to, I feel like it's easier for me because I'm not the primary caregiver, my mom is. So I feel like it's been hard for her to navigate making sure she takes care of herself and acknowledging her mental health needs, and then navigating my brother's, because once he was diagnosed, it became like an all-consuming thing. So it was all about him kind of thing, and we kind of didn't really focus on ourselves. But now that we're starting to understand what it is and starting to educate ourselves, I feel like it's been easier for us to navigate and understand our own mental health, through learning about my brother's. Yeah.
The road to recovery is long sometimes. As we know, it often shows up when our children are transitioning from high school to something else, and careers get stalled, families don't grow, they don't get married, they don't do the things that they expected. But some do recover and go back to school and do get themselves organized. So I just want to really encourage the public in general to have a better understanding of what we mean by mental illness, and should it be termed mental health issues as opposed to illness. And if your child was diagnosed with cancer, would you go look for care and talk about it? When it's mental illness, we tend to withdraw and we don't know what to do. So I just want to remind us all that there is hope in all the challenges that we face.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the latest statistic, or the one that they comment most on, is that 1 in 5 of us are suffering from a mental illness. So if we take in the number of people who are caregivers for a mental illness, I probably would think that maybe only 1 in 5 don't have any connection to mental illness. However, all of these things that we've been mentioning, financing, like sending letters to the government, and all of those things will never take effect unless we take this small group of us, those of us who suffer and who are caregivers, and spread the word. I just think that this has been so incredibly moving, rewarding for me to be able to talk about it. We just need those opportunities to be able to share, and then you just feel like it's not just me, I'm not the only one, and you get to talk to somebody, and then you can network, and then you can pass it on. But I think that there's just a wonderful power in the room, and something that can go beyond this, but we just have to keep talking. And then when the circle gets larger and the outsiders are included, then we can, Brenda, get to the government and we can convince other people that we need more money to fund it and that this is a real illness. And I'm blabbering now, so I'm going to shut up.
I think that family members do not feel like they are listened to in the system, or that they're listened to very selectively, only when the system wants something from them. And I think that being able to come into a space where they could bring forward things that maybe they don't get to talk about, and also really feel that people wanted to hear it and wanted to do something with that, was something that people quite appreciated.
I think one of the most rewarding aspects of the cafe for me was seeing how beneficial it was for families and how happy families were walking out of those cafes. We actually saw that families were not even leaving. They were connecting with each other. They were staying behind. They were exchanging on all different kinds of things. It really appeared to be something that they benefited from, needed, and actually wanted to continue. So I think that seeing something like that actually was really satisfying to see, and it is something that I have seen in the past facilitating groups for families, is just how beneficial it is for families to have support from other family members.
One of my favorite stories is that at a group I was facilitating, there was this one participant who was quiet for the majority of it. But by the time we got to the last part where we said, any other jewels, what are your hopes? What do you hope to, what do you want to leave back before you go out back and enjoy the rest of your weekend? This one woman stood up and talked about, you know what? Let's talk about the cut to basic income pilot project. Let's talk about the housing crisis. Let's talk about the failures of the criminal justice system and its impact on mental health. And the fact that people living with a mental illness, they're going through, it's not just an individual issue, it's a systemic issue. It's a community issue. It's a policy issue. And the way she stood up and the way she just absorbed the voices in the room, the support in the room. We're all supporting her. And I felt like it was such a transformational experience because you could tell it was not just her talking for herself or talking from her own experience. She was talking on behalf of so many other people that are going through these issues, these challenges, these forms of injustice, these forms of oppression. And it was such a wonderful, I feel so privileged to be a witness to that.